What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am Les Alex, and today we are going to be playing some more Pioneer. If you dig the content, though, make sure to smash that like and subscribe. All right, now that you've done both of those two things, no, seriously, hit that subscribe button. I could wait. All right, let's get into this video, though. It's a deck tech and a gameplay video. One of the decks that is near and dear to my heart. If you've been rocking with me, you know that I am an avid blue-white control player. This deck is really awesome because it utilizes Fae of Wishes. I'm really hyped about it. I got to do some pretty sweet stuff with Fae of Wishes actually in this game, so I'm really excited. Fae of Wishes is no joke, and I think that as the metagame kind of takes shape and we finally figure out what's going on in Pioneer, Blue-White Control is going to be legit. Blue-White Control is going to be a contender. I posted on my Twitter as a poll. I put a couple different archetypes up there. If you don't yet follow me on Twitter, make sure to head on over there right now and follow me at LesAlex, because I do give the viewers a hand in choosing what decks I play. So if you want to be in the process, in the creative field, head on over to my Twitter and give me a follow. And I'm always down to just chop it up and talk memes or magic or life. Whatever it is, I'm down to clown. So yeah, let's get into these games and this deck tech. All right, everyone, let's get into this deck tech of Blue-White Control for Pioneer. Playing 26 lands. Couple of castles. We got Castle Arvindale and Castle Vantris, as well as Fabled Passage, 2 Field of Ruin because we're super greedy with our mana base, 2 Field of the Dead, 1 Gaia Reach Sanitarium, 4 Glacial Fortress, 4 Hallowed Fountain, 1 Irrigated Farmland, 3 Islands, 1 Memorial to Genius, 2 Plains, 1 Port Town, 1 Prairie Stream, and 1 Tipple of Enlightenment. Yeah, we are going a little deep on the Field of Dead plan, but I think it's probably worth it. It has been good for me in my games. Not in the game that we're going to watch, but in other games. It's really good at gumming up the board, and if you start hitting those zombies, you just kill them with zombies. It's pretty great. Moving on to the spells. 2 Declaration Stones. Now, one thing about this card, I do want to let you know, obviously, this card is super good with Teferi Time Raveler, which, of course, we are playing all 4 copies of. It's very good. Turning it into an instant and then, like, hitting one of their things and exiling the other is insane. Very good. Highly recommend Declaration in Stone. Got 2 Last Breaths. This card is pretty good. It's not the greatest, but it does hit the early threats, and that is really what we are worried about. We have to live to the late game, and in order to do that, we have to kill their little creatures. So Last Breath, I definitely have liked. Censor, I have said it once. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Censor, to me, is the best counterspell in this format. Every single deck in this format is trying to run up the curve, hit their spells on curve. So Censor is excellent. And, of course, late game, you get the cycle effect, and it's just so good. Trust me. Trust me, this card is great. Next up, we have Fae of Wishes. This card, it's so good. It's so good. Being able to tutor for some of the sideboard pieces that we have is just incredible. Actually, in the game that we're going to watch, you'll see it pays off big time. Moving on, we have 1 Jace, Architect of Thought. This one is near and dear to my heart. I loved playing this card back in Standard, and I'm so excited to get to play it in Pioneer. And then, of course, we have Supreme Verdict. This card is great. It's the best Wrath in Magic, really. I mean, yes, Wrath of God doesn't let them regenerate, but there's not too many regenerate creatures, if any, really, in Pioneer. So Supreme Verdict, being uncounterable, is excellent. Of course, they can spell quell it, but still, Supreme Verdict, by far the best Wrath. The single copy of Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, and he's good. He's arguably the best card not named Dig Through Time in the entire deck. We also have 2 Skywhaler shots. This card is good at the exact opposite things as Last Breath is. So Last Breath is obviously for cleaning up the little critters. This is great for cleaning up all of the big fatty boom booms that we could see. Mystical Dispute. This card, main deck, has been fire. A lot of blue decks running around, a lot of Okos running around, so a lot of times this card is going to end up costing us just 1 mana. What's basically a 1 mana leak is insane. Very good. 2 Detention Spheres. This card is kind of just a catch-all removal spell. Hits everything. And yeah, just super good. And being able to get up multiple copies of the same card. Just a really clean answer to pretty much everything that doesn't have hexproof in this format. Moving on to Fairy, Time Raveler, TTR, Teferi 3, whatever you want to call him. This guy is so good. He is good against the creature decks. He's good against the control decks. He's even kind of good against some of the combo decks. So Teferi, Time Raveler, so good. And then Absorb. Absorb is a card that if you listen to my podcast, you know that I'm a huge fan of Absorb in this format. You really have to gain life in this format to be successful with control decks. So that's why we're not playing Disallow. Because, yeah, sometimes you will get to stifle a Planeswalker ability or a Fable to Passage or, something to that effect. But gaining the 3 life is just so good in this format. You really need to have a way to have more than just your starting 20. Because you're shocking, you need your lands to enter the battlefield untapped. And the extra 3 life is huge. Of course, the 1 white mana is definitely not free, but I definitely believe that it is worth the extra color pip. Moving on, the best card in the deck, Dig Through Time. This card is insane. I'm sure if you've got to play any amount with this card, you know how powerful this is. I don't, however, think it's going to end up getting banned, at least not yet. There's just no fetches in this format other than Fabled Passage. And really, it's pretty fair. It's pretty fair. It's good cards, very strong card. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this is not a good card, but it is fair in this format, to say the least. And then moving on down the line, we have a Singleton Syncopate. Syncopate, great card. You can kind of run them up the curve and catch people off in late game. Sometimes you get to really get them if they just sleep on it and don't expect it. And then, of course, Sphinx's Revelation. This is kind of just because I really don't know. I really don't know which is better. Dig Through Time, Sphinx's Revelation, both are good. I'm leaning towards Dig Through Time's better, but at this point, Sphinx's Revelation is just, it hits home, man. I love this card. This card brings back so many memories. I can't cut it. I just can't. Moving on to the sideboard, we have an Authority of Consoles. Against the quick aggro decks, we want to be able to have the creatures enter tap and gain 1 life. That's huge. And in the same vein, we have Searing Light. So destroy target attacking or blocking creature with power 2 or less for 1 white at instant is very powerful. Definitely good. I would definitely recommend this card. If you haven't seen it yet in the sideboards of control decks, I definitely recommend. And then Rest in Peace Kethis combo is good. Blue-white control is good. So definitely would recommend Rest in Peace. Forsake the Worldly. This one is kind of a sleeper, I feel. Kind of a sleeper. Being able to destroy target artifact or enchantment and being able to cycle it if it's unnecessary. We draw it late game and it's not necessary. You can just cycle it and get a free new card. So that's never bad. Moving on down the line, we got Elspeth, Sun's Champion. The Champion of the Sun. Yeah, I mean, this card's great. Brings back so many memories. I'm so happy to get to play with it again. She's so good. Moving on, Narset, Parter of Veils. Against the grindy decks, you definitely want to have a great card advantage engine, and Narset definitely provides that. And then we have Dovin's Veto ×3. Very strong counterspell. Great against the other control decks and just the decks that want to play non-creatures, to be honest. Yeah, being able to counter them for only 2 mana, and it's a hard counter, is excellent. Moving on down the line, we got Elixir of Immortality. This card, again, harkens back to the old school blue-white control standard deck that was during Return to Ravnica, and gaining 5 life and shuffling up your graveyard. Retooling is always great. Pretty good against those aggro decks, and pretty good against the grindy decks as well. Grafdigger's Cage, just another way to fight the graveyard decks. Just a solid card, 1 colorless to get the job done. Great card. Pithing Needle is kind of a catch-all. You can name anything with it. You can name Planeswalkers. You can name Swamp against your mono-black Devotion players. You know, this card's great. Just a very good catch-all. And then moving on to the last card in the sideboard, Ugin the Spirit Dragon. This card is a house. Being able to Fey Wishes for it is just, it's so good. It's so beautiful. I love it. And yeah, that's the deck. Let's get into these games because it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun playing this deck. So let's get into these games. All right, we won the die roll, but unfortunately we did have to mulligan. So we keep our 6 though. And we start things off with a Hallowed Fountain tapped and just pass on back. Our opponent starts with an island and passes right back. We go Glacial Fortress and pass back to you. They flash in a Spectral Sailor, so we know what is going on. At least some kind of Spirits deck. They crash in for 1, or well, they're poke in, I guess. Not quite a crash in whenever it's just for 1. So our hand is actually not too great against a aggro deck like this. They play Mutavault and play Mausoleum Wanderer and pass right back. Play Hallowed Fountain, untapped, and cast Teferi just a tick up and pass back. They then play Supreme Phantom, of course giving their spirits +1/+1. They attack Teferi and kill him, unfortunately, because Mausoleum Wanderer is good. We draw Teferi and cast Teferi, down ticket and bounce the Spectral Sailor. Play Memorial of Genius and pass back. They play Port Town and cast a second Supreme Phantom. So they got things going in the right direction right now. They attack. Teferi number 2 hits the bin. We untap, draw Last Breath, which is actually really, really good for us. So now we get to Last Breath and Sky Whaler's shot this turn. So pretty great for us. Of course, we wait till they declare their attackers. And we're going to use this Sky Whaler shot first to hit their Wanderer. And then we Last Breath one of the Phantoms. We're at 13, so I'm at this point feeling like I'm in pretty good shape here. Staved off their early attack and their early onslaught. We drew Supreme Verdict too, so that's always good. Play Field of the Dead tapped and pass back. They flash in double Spectral Sailor and then get in for 5. One thing to note too, Spectral Sailor is real good because it starts drawing a bunch of cards after a while. But we do have, of course, this Verdict, which is going to wrath the board. They draw a card off Spectral Sailor, but we have Absorb at the ready here. They go Copter and gotta counter that one because that one is so good against us. Can't let them get that card advantage engine rolling. We draw another Absorb, so excellent for us. They flash in a Spectral Sailor. That's fine. They fire up the old Mutavault and bash in for 3, taking us to 7. We end a turn, crack our Memorial of Genius to draw 2, and boy howdy are they good ones. We get Dig Through Time, Teferi, and then draw Supreme Verdict. Cast Teferi, they Spell Queller, which of course we have the Absorb for, and the Teferi ticks up, and we pass back. Now they play this card, the Eagle. It's the 3 mana, 2/3 from M20. It's flying, and all other creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. Pretty solid card in this deck, actually. So they attack us here, taking us to 8, which is fine. Of course, we have Verdict at the ready. They play a second Spectral Sailor, which is excellent for us, because now this Verdict is just going to be so great for us. And then we'll have Dig Through Time at the end of the turn. We tick Teferi up and pass right on back. They simply play a Mutavault and pass. We then Dig Through Time, finding Declaration in Stone and Censor. Play Castle Arvindale. They play Mutavault ×2, which, oh boy, this is Pretty nasty stuff for us because they activated both. The Declaration in Stone hits one of them, and they scoop up for game 1. Let's get into game 2. All right, for game number 2, our opening hand is pretty perfect. We would like another land, but having Censor and Absorb and Supreme Verdict. Supreme Verdict is huge, and of course Teferi, the card's great. They go Island into Mausoleum Wanderer and pass back. We play Hallowed Fountain tapped. They play a Plains and cast another Mausoleum Wanderer, which of course buffs the original, and they attack in for 2. We then play Island and pass right back. They just attack for 2. We then cycle Censor, and they flash in a Rattle Change. We play Castle, Teferi uptick, pass back, and then they attack. Now, one thing I do want to say is upticking there was kind of risky, because if they had a Supreme or any way to buff any of their creatures, Teferi would have died. But instead, they just attack us, and then they Brazen Borrower Teferi back to our hand. We play Hallowed Fountain untapped. We fire off the Supreme Verdict, and a 3-for-1 is always welcome. They flash in a Spectral Sailor and attack for 1. They then flash in Brazen Borrower, which we syncopate. And that's the reason we didn't play Teferi there, because Teferi would likely have died, or at least gotten very, very low. I would have rather syncopated there than just had Teferi randomly die. We play a Memorial of Genius. They end of turn draw a card with the Sailor. They fire up the Mutavault and attack in for 3. We then Last Breath their Mutavault, taking 1, dropping to 7. We then play a Glacial Fortress and cast Teferi, which they have a Spell Queller for, but we have an Absorb again, just like last game, and we bounce their Sailor. They play another Eagle, and then the Spectral Sailor, and pass back. We play a Plains, and just pass back, because here we get to live the dream and cast a Supreme Verdict at instant speed. They draw a card with Spectral Sailor, which is fine, but the Wrath happens, and that's what matters. We then get to cast Granted. We get Ugin the Spirit Dragon, play our land, get a zombie, and then cast Ugin the Spirit Dragon. And then for some reason, our opponent didn't want to play with us anymore. So yeah, that was it. That was the whole match. 2 quick games, but it really does show how good the deck is. Getting to Fae of Wish for any of your sideboard cards and not have to play like a wish board is super, super good. Ugin is just so great. I love the fact that blue-white control has the ability to play that in this format. And it doesn't really feel too clunky, especially with Fae of Wishes. So I definitely dig this deck. Of course, if you do dig the content and you find value in it, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. As always, you are appreciated. I am glad that you hung out and watched the video. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at LessAlex again. And I do have a Patreon. So if you want to support the content further, head on over to Patreon. I'll leave all that stuff in the details below. But yeah, everybody, thanks for hanging out for another gameplay video. Pioneer is awesome. What do you think? What do you think about Pioneer? Do you think there needs to be more bans? Or do you like the format how it is? Either way it goes, reach out to me. I love to hear back from all of you. And yeah, as always, everybody, thanks for watching the video. I'm out.